Welcome to our 2023 grants meeting. My name is Irene Willis Hassan, and I'm the Minister for Refugee and Migration Services on Team Global Hope with UCC National Ministries. Every year, we try to put out grants that are available for churches involved in immigration ministries to be able to support what you guys are doing and make it sustainable. And so in coordination with our team, I've developed 5 grants based on the data from year 2022. Our team is new. Team Global Hope is the evolution of the humanitarian ministries team at UCC National. And we finally put our whole team together with the hiring of me, yay, in 2021. And so we weren't able to get accurate numbers in 2022 about how much grant funding that we were spending. But the trend last year, how much we spent last year, was 115,000 is how much we created in grants to local churches and their nonprofit partners. So because we are gaining visibility and because the request for grants has doubled since the same time last year, we're predicting that we're going to have about $210,000 worth of requests. That's our cap. And once that cap's reached, we're not going to be offering any more grants because that is our budget. So in this training or workshop, it's not really a training, it's a workshop. I'm going to present to you guys a PowerPoint that's going to include screenshots of what the new grants look like and explanations, and give you guys a chance to ask questions about them. I am going to stop for questions between each grant so that you guys don't lose in your head what you're thinking about that grant and any questions you have about it. The grants are adaptable, so if there is any language you see in it that you think would be better suited a different way, you're welcome to submit that to me and I'll bring it to our committee for review. So without much more ado, I am going to go ahead and share my screen. If you're just coming on, I gave a short notice about please mute yourselves if you're not currently. Otherwise, your face will permanently be on the recording. So thank you. I sure appreciate you guys keeping that in mind. So let's see, share screen. All right, can everybody see that okay? Great. Hello, get big. There we go. Okay. So these are the new grants that we have available. There are 5 new grants, and again, these are all based on stuff that you guys did in the last 2 years, which was really cool to witness. So the first one is the Migrant Empowerment Match Grant. We had that one last year, but it had a lengthier name based on the federal equivalent, based on the data that came in from that grant, and the grants were awarded through it. I readapted it so that it made more sense for our context, and I'll explain more about that in a further slide. We also have the Migrant Community Program Seed Grant. About 25% of our grants that came in year 2023 were for the creation of community programs. For example, hiring a coordinator for a project, or creating an ESL class inside of a church, or other things. We had a really cool project that was that we awarded for migrant youth behavioral health care. So programs like that. Again, I'll go each one of these in detail, but so that was 25% of our funding from last year. So we made that its whole own grant. The Refugee Resettlement Booster Grant, 43% of the grants that we awarded in 2022 were for refugee resettlement. That may not be the case this year because a lot of that went to Afghan nationals that were from the evacuation of 2021. Of course, that hopefully isn't going to happen this year, or maybe it will. Anyway, who knows? But so 43% of what we awarded last year was for Afghan resettlement, and that went through technically refugee resettlement. We also have the Solidarity Grant that was developed last year. I didn't advertise it very widely because it was sort of an emergency situation. in which we had two major emergencies happen in 2021, 2022. That was the Afghan evacuation, and then all the buses coming from Texas to random cities without notice. And so I created the Solidarity Grant that is emergency money that is just kind of grab and go money by conferences for churches that are meeting sudden emergency needs that they hadn't anticipated, like those two. It could apply to other situations. Again, hopefully we don't have many other wild emergency situations that happen around migration this year, but that seems to be the trend, right? And then we have, I'm sorry, I have 6 new grants. My bad. The Asylum Accompaniment Booster Grant, that's similar to the Refugee Resettlement Grant, in which that is to help churches that are accompanying asylum seekers, just like the Refugee Resettlement Booster Grant is for churches that are resettling refugees. Of course, asylum seekers have slightly different needs, so that grant is slightly different than the resettlement grant. And then finally, and this one's a new one that has to do with some very serious changes happening to the refugee resettlement system. We have the Ukrainian Sponsorship Seed Grant. And so Ukrainians are under a very specialized program in which individuals can sort of go onto the welcome.us website or Church World Service and choose a Ukrainian family to bring overseas and sponsor them for up to 2 years. And so we are providing funding for that specialized program. And I'll explain why that's a major shift. We're going to see not just Ukrainians, but perhaps all kinds of refugees under that sort of model here very shortly, which we are going to cover in more length on our March 1st webinar about those changes to the refugee resettlement system and what it might potentially mean for a total system, immigration system overhaul. Let's see. So that's just a quick review of what the grants are. You can find all this information on my landing page, which is Refugee and Migration Ministries at ucc.org. And then that will provide the links to the actual grant applications, which look like this. Oh, actually, sorry. Let me go over this first. So Smarter Select is the application software that we use to process grant applications, which in some ways is more convenient than paper grants being mailed in. In some ways it's not. So like anything on the internet these days, it requires a username and password that you have to create to get into the system. And then that will bring you to, well, first of all, you'll see the program description. That should really be flipped. So when you press on these links, which again are active on the landing page, it's going to bring you to a program description. And then when you go to hit apply, it's going to prompt you for a username and password. And some of you already have it from previous applied grants. Some of you don't, so you'll just have to create one. For all applications, all the answers have to be completed and attached documents attached. And all of our grants, all 6 of them, require a 501c3 or fiscal agent, a W-9. And so the 501c3 and W-9 are basically how we pay you. So the W-9 keeps track of where the payment's going, and the 501c3 it makes it safe for taxation. It creates a healthy taxation record. So that's the purpose of those 2. A letter from the conference or association minister is for good covenantal policy, so that conferences of local churches are aware and support whatever funding relationship that a local church or group of churches has with UCC National. So this was a big question in 2022. Is that a lot of folks applied for organizations that were not UCC, so partners that they had, refugee resettlement offices, or small nonprofits that were created by a group of churches, things like this, or for example, other nonprofits that were working with the migrant buses, and the church was just a sideline to that. Yes, you can apply for those nonprofits to get funding. However, a UCC church needs to be the primary applicant. And what I mean is that a UCC church needs to fill in their information and say that they are applying on behalf of blank nonprofit to give the funding to the nonprofit. So if and when the grant is awarded, and we almost always try to award grants And if we don't award a grant, then we always come back to the applicant and say XYZ needs to be clarified, but we never just say no. We have never once in our history of 2 years of history of awarding these grants have just said straight no to anybody. We want to support what you guys are doing. Anyway, so the UCC church needs to say we're going to give this money to this partner, and so if and when the grant is awarded, the check is cut to Church X, Church UCC X, and Church UCC X can use it to just give a cash cut to whoever it is that they're funding on behalf of. That's fine, just as long as it's reported afterward. For any technical issues with Smarter Select, which we have done a thorough job trying to eliminate those now that we have 2 years of experience working with it. But if you do have technical issues, Craig Hoffman, which is our program assistant, will be happy to assist you. And if you have content questions, as I mentioned in the beginning, if there's an inconsistency in the content or something that you would like clarified, you would contact me. So once the application is submitted, you're going to receive a confirmation email. I'll get that same confirmation email, which will tell me that you are ready to present at the next grant meeting. And I'll cover what happens at the grant meetings later, I think. No, maybe I didn't create yes, here's the process page. So applications are due the third Friday of every month. If you don't complete it by that third Friday, that's okay. It's going to stay open till the end of the year. It's just you won't be in the next grant review. You won't be in that month's grant review. So for third Friday, except for November, December, and January, because of adjustments to the fiscal schedule at UCC National because of the holidays. And also accounting does a big audit at the end of the year. But anyway, you guys have all worked before, right? So on those months, November, December, and January, they're due the first Friday. So then between that Friday and Tuesday, please try to turn in earlier if possible, because between that Friday and Tuesday, I go in and review your application to make sure there's no errors and that we can open all the documents that you sent and that they are clear. And if I have any questions, I will email you and ask you those questions or ask you to clarify something, ask for a new document submission if the document's in the wrong format, etc. And if I can't get those questions answered before the Tuesday after the Friday, which is when the grant review is, I can't present it. So it will get deferred to the next month. Yeah. So please try to get it in before the third Friday, just so I have more time to review it and ask you any questions as needed. So once, and this is sort of the cool thing about our grants at UCC National. So a lot of folks, because I hadn't clarified this last year, a lot of folks thought that the grant report was due at the end of the year on December 31st. When it is actually due is just when you spend the money. So if you had asked for $2,000 to help 2 asylum seekers with legal fees, you pay those legal fees. You just create a report, which I'll send you the link for once the award is provided. You just complete the report again on Smarter Select, and then your grant is considered closed and you're applicable for a new one. So you could apply for multiple grants. You just can't do them same time. You can't do 2 grants from one church at the same time. But once you have spent the money from the first grant that you were awarded, and then you go in and you do the report on Smarter Select saying that we've spent all this money, here's how, you're then eligible for another grant. It doesn't have to take till the end of the year. We had a few churches do that this year where they used money, reported, got a new grant. So all 6 of these applications will close at the end of the year, unless we spend all that $210,000 before that, in which case they'll all be closed before then. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop right here and ask if anyone has any questions about Smarter Select or the process I just described. Yes, I can share the PowerPoint after this, that's fine. Okay, if no further questions at this time, we'll move on to the grants themselves. Yep. Okay, so here's the Empowerment Match Grant. This is what the program description page looks like. So this is what you'll be linked to when you click the link on the Refugee and Migration landing page. And this is just a description of what it is. So this is a replication, or not replication, it's a model of a similar federal grant for, the federal grant is for refugees only, for them to pursue small businesses, higher education. Actually, I think the federal one is just small businesses, if I remember right. But so we expanded that grant because we think that's a great idea for empowerment. Because as all of us who have hosted migrants know, is that they enter the workforce with menial jobs that aren't going to give them an empowering, thriving life. So the purpose of this grant is to accelerate their career and give them better options for a full, healthy life in the U.S. So that includes opening a small business, pursuing higher education, or seeking recertification in whatever career field that they were in whatever country they're from. We awarded only 2 of those in 2022 because the previous iteration of this was, I think, too confusing. And so one of them was for a asylum seeker to open his own home construction business. So we funded a work truck and materials for him to open a construction business. And the other one was for another asylum seeker to pursue a degree in criminal justice. So those were the only 2 that we awarded, and I hope that there will be more this year. This is for individual migrants of all kinds of any background, any sort of visa status background, to be able to advance their career opportunities, or just create necessary skills for living in the United States, which is why it is open to asylum seekers or other folks with undocumented status, because it's not just here's money, it's here's how to build your life in America. This one does have to be matched. So either the sponsoring church or the migrant themselves has to match whatever funding they request. So if you request $5,000 so that Jorge from Guatemala can open a barbershop, then either the church or Jorge have to present $5,000 as a match. So the total would be $10,000. And the reason for that is for accountability and also empowerment, personal autonomy. Having a personal investment in the pursuits that we do is a really powerful thing. And also the accountability is this assures that if you have skin in the game, that money won't be turned around and used to pay rent instead. We have a separate grant for things like rent, which is the refugee resettlement or the asylum accompaniment booster grant. But so this one is more for folks to become who they truly want to be in the United States. This is probably my favorite of all the grants. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions about this grant? Can we Zoom with you about the details of grant? Yes, people do that all the time. You can definitely send me an email, and I will make a time to talk to you about the particulars of whatever grant you have. Can 2 or more people be in one grant? I don't see why not. You can't do 2 or more people in one grant. It might make the grant kind of confusing, but yeah, I don't see why you could do like this example says, one person needs classes or another one needs job training. Yeah, if you want to do just 2 people at once, it's just matching, the funds will match whatever the church or the migrants put into it. The limit on the grant amount for this one is $5,000 per application, which again, if it was matched, would be $10,000. Okay. Okay, so this one is the Community Program Seed Grant. Again, this is funding for If you're going to hire a coordinator for a project that you're doing, we funded maybe 4 or 5 coordinators in 2022 for various migrant projects across the UCC. So that was a really popular one. It was also popular to host ESL classes for migrants in church spaces. I think we funded 7 of those. Other ideas for this that I would suggest are things like citizenship classes, financial literacy classes, job and career training classes, we had one behavioral health center that we funded, or things like child and youth extracurricular programs to help youth adjust and adapt to life in the United States. So things that could be covered include staff salaries, program supplies, rental space, other resources that make this project viable. So that's what that one is this one's for creating community programs for migrants to thrive. Any questions about this one? Okay. This one for funding is up to $7,000. We've almost consistently funded $7,000 for each project, but that just depends on the scope and length of the project. Okay, this one's the refugee resettlement grant. So this one's money for resettlement stuff, like things like putting deposits down on apartments or housewares, or even refurbishing part of the church so that you could host migrants. Well, specifically refugees, folks that are processed through the ORR, or folks that have come through the new specialized process, which again, the specialized process, which will probably overhaul a lot of the refugee resettlement system, is looking like. That's brand new. They started that in October. And again, that will be covered on March 1st. So this can either cover traditional ORR process refugees through refugee offices, or this can cover the new specialized process, which currently covers Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Haitians, and Cubans. It also covers Ukrainians, but we have a different grant for Ukrainians. But that will probably expand over the course of the year, the nationalities that are eligible for this, and I will update it as that becomes true. So this one is approximately $1,000 per family that you host. It just depends on the situation, though. You know, maybe one family has higher needs, a medical disability, trauma. Of course, all of them have trauma, but you know, there's certain levels that can create different levels of difficulty in resettling. English, things like that are all taken into account. So it's between 1,000 to 2,000 per individual family, and it goes up to 7,000. And you have to be working. You absolutely have to be working with some sort of professional program to qualify for this one. So traditional refugee office or the U.S. Sponsor Circles program, Welcome.us, which again is the new one that is replicating the Canadian system through the specialized process for these particular nationalities, or the Church World Service remote placement program. You have to be working with one of those in order to be eligible to apply. Okay, questions about this one? Is there one? Okay, hold on. Do the community grant and the resettlement grant require matching from the refugee family? Nope, the only one that's matching is the empowerment grant. That's the only matching one. And then does this app, hold on. You guys can also shout it out if you want to, but that's fine. I'm happy to read the chat too if you don't. Okay, is one app at a time per type of grant or per total of the 5 to 6? No. Each church can only apply for one grant through the Global Hope Fund or through the Refugee and Migration at a time. So you can't do an empowerment grant and a resettlement grant at the same time. You can only have one refugee and migration grant open at a time. I hope that answers your question. So no, there's other. The question is, so if we don't have a local office, can we can't apply? No, there's different ways to sponsor if you don't have a local office. You can do Welcome.us. The U.S. sponsor Circles program or Church World Service as well. Those are different avenues besides a local office, but you do have to be working with a professional federal partner in refugee resettlement.
Irene, can you clarify that? I just want to, so we don't currently have a partner, so we would need to apply with one of these four in order to apply for this loan or grant.
I mean, generally, yes. I mean, you do have to have some sort of professional partner whose job, whose main nonprofit function or federal function is refugee resettlement or humanitarian parole, which is the other process. So yes, you do have to have a professional partner, but if you have something in mind in particular, you're welcome to email me about it. But the preference is strongly for churches that are working with professional partners.
The reason I asked this question is we brought someone in that's not through the typical refugees, and it sounds like some of the immigration changes may come into church sponsorship. So I was just, there's a different burden there. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so that would be the Welcome.us program. If the individual you're thinking about is asylum, if they applied for asylum, that's the asylum accompaniment grant. But if they came in through humanitarian parole or a refugee resettlement office, that's this one. Okay. Whoops. There. Hold on. What am I doing? Come in. Here we go. Okay. I don't know what my question's like. Are there funds available for attorney fees for humanitarian parolees under the refugee resettlement grant? Yes. Yeah, that's fine. I understand that's a special process that's in particular for, yeah, that's fine. In fact, I can add that. That's a good point. Okay, this one is, okay, this one's the asylum accompaniment one. I had to cut it off so you could see all the information. This one, again, you have to be working with a professional partner. That's always the preference, is that you have a professional organization that that is helping you to do any of this. But a lot of those professional organizations are UCC led. Like you can create your own 501c3 as well. If you're a registered 501, that might answer your question too, Heidi, is if you're a registered 501c3 that's dedicated to refugee resettlement, you qualify as a professional partner. So some of the professional partners that we are partnered with at UCC National, but you're not limited to these ones, include Al Otro Lado, which is in California, Cruzando Fronteras, which is UCC cooperated as well. And then the Chicago Religious Leadership Network of Latin America. It's also cooperated by UCC. In fact, most of these are. The Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, also UCC cooperated, and the Interfaith Movement for Immigrant Justice, also UCC cooperated. Church World Service or refugee offices with asylum capacity, you could also use those, or any other resources that might be at your local government levels. Different state governments or city governments have different policies on asylum, or sanctuary working groups. Just if you have a registered 501c3 that's dedicated to asylum services, then that qualifies. And so this is exactly the same as the refugee resettlement grant in that it's approximately 1,000 per individual, just depending on circumstance, and then up to 7,000 for more than one individual. I'm sorry, more than one family. So this one is, to do a lot of the similar work of the refugee resettlement booster grant, in that helping a family get adjusted to life in the United States and funding their initial housing and food security needs and things like that. Or, Raina pointed out that humanitarian parolees also need legal help. Asylum seekers, we have funded in the past legal services for asylum seekers. And that's, again, approximately $1,000 per individual, but it just depends on the situation. If you're
Hello,
not, go ahead.
um, I asked a question under my initials that are BM,
Mhm.
and I wondered if you could answer that. I'm also hearing an echo. I don't know how to fix that.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to fix the echo either. Might be. Oh, I know why. It's because you are using a different audio than your video. So that's just the way it's going to be because you've got two different things open. Okay, I'm sorry I missed your
How do I,
question.
how do I fix that?
Um, I'm not sure how to fix that unless your audio and video were coming from the same device, which it doesn't look like they are. Your question is that there is a new center in Devens, Massachusetts, taking migrants, but not limited to them, also has homeless people. The program is designed by Massachusetts agencies and is only short term. Our congregation is supplying clothing to the shelter. Could we apply for a grant to buy supplies like diapers, toothpaste, etc.? Yes, yeah, you can apply on behalf of this
Okay,
shelter.
I understood the yes. I just, it's hard for me to ask any more questions now, so I guess I'll just send you an email.
Okay, I'm not getting much of an echo from my side. You sound clear to me. I'm sorry that you're having trouble on your side. You're also welcome to drop more questions in the chat. I apologize, I didn't see your initial question. Okay, the next question is, if we're not already partnered with one of these groups, how do we get that set up? So I put the links in the application to their contact information, so you can get a hold of them. I also know all of these groups personally, and so if you just send me an email, I can introduce you to them. I know all these asylum organizations are always looking for more accompaniment churches, and they would be thrilled to hear from you if you wanted to work with them. So basically just send me an email or visit the website that's linked in the application.
I have a simple question.
Yeah.
Can we get the information that's on the screen in hard copy if we email you for it?
Like you want me to mail it to you, like a physical paper copy? Yeah, that's fine. I can do that for you. I can also send this in an email. But yeah, send me an email and I can send you a physical copy in the mail.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Hold on, let me go up to, okay, we are finding a great need for dental restorative treatments. Yes, that is a big problem for a lot of folks. Dental. That's a great question. I guess that would fall under resettlement. That is a common question about dental benefits. Raina, let me do some research and get back to you. I will. That's a great question. Let me get back to that one about if there's any help from medical coverage for. Linda's saying that Medicaid helped cover extractions and denture for their refugees that they're working with.
Thank you. I think it may depend on the state you're in too. I'm not positive about that, but yes, I'd appreciate any information you have. Thank you.
Okay, I'll look that up. That's a common question that I get.
Yeah, Oklahoma Medicaid covers dental very well. We were totally delighted.
That's great. Too bad Pennsylvania doesn't, apparently. Okay. Betsy, it might, if you're still getting an echo, even with your mute on, you could try logging off and logging back in. That's a common problem, is just rebooting. And again, my apologies. I don't know how to help you with that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Could this be used for emergency housing when folks are dropped off and moving on to families in other states? Yes. Yes, it could. Although that would probably fall better onto the Solidarity Grant. The Solidarity Grant is really for these sort of emergency crisis situations in which people are getting dropped off wherever by these buses. But you could email me the particulars of what you're thinking about, and we could go over whether that would be asylum accompaniment grant or the Solidarity Grant. The Solidarity Grant is for more short-term emergency needs. The Asylum Accompaniment Grant is meant to help support churches to do long-term care with individual families. Okay, food distribution. How about a food distributor church members currently volunteer with? This pay for necessities outside, such as food, diapers. Would any grant categories cover this? So you want to fund a nonprofit that you work with that does that does necessities. Which grant category would that be in? It depends on whether it would be like, does this program just generally serve migrants or just anyone in the community in need? Yes, anyone in the community in need. Is that the answer? It's for immigrants, right? Okay. Any type of migrant. Yeah, I would say that probably qualifies under the community program grant. So that's one I would apply for under that. These are great questions, guys. I appreciate you guys having such excellent feedback about things that could get brought up in these processes. Okay, next page. All right, this one's the Solidarity Grant that I just spoke on a little bit. This one's for emergency. If an emergency happens, like you get a bus full of migrants that just shows up in Greensboro, North Carolina, or wherever you're at, this is what you apply for. Or, you know, let's say, you know, God forbid, but it could happen. You know, there was a fire in an apartment building that was designated for migrants. You would apply for this. Things like that. It's just emergency. It's up to $3,000. In fact, it's usually just $3,000, but if you need less than that, that's fine too. But this is just a small grant for boom, sudden emergency, help out with whatever that may be. The reason why this one's small is because FEMA has lots of larger funding for this that we encourage churches to apply for. So they have something called the Emergency Food and Shelter Program that I could tell you the process how to apply for that is very complicated, as government grants are. But that program is where you can apply for emergency situations for migrants as well. And then finally, this is the last one, the Ukrainian Sponsorship Seed Grant. Again, the entire landscape of refugee resettlement is changing, and I'll explain more in the March 1st webinar. But you can go on to welcome.us and pick, well, the family picks you actually. A Ukrainian family picks you based on your location and what you can offer. It's sort of like a dating app almost, in which you put your profile up there, and if a Ukrainian chooses you, you can have a conversation with this Ukrainian or this Ukrainian's family and see if it would be viable for you to sponsor them for up to 2 years to stay in the United States during the crisis in their country. Because this is a brand new program and there could be a lot of glitches that happen to it, you have to, and there's no flexibility on this, you have to register with either Church World Service or welcome.us before applying for this one. And that's for the safety of churches. So this webinar I'm doing on March 1st is called Responding to the Heartbreaking Email, because many of you may have witnessed that your inboxes may be filling up with refugees giving you petitions about why they should be sponsored under these programs. And the reason why that is because it's set up this way for at least 5 nationalities now, and probably will be expanded to more, is that refugees can be sponsored by individual churches or private individuals to be brought over to the United States for up to 2 years. And so a lot of migrants overseas are petitioning for their eligibility to do this, which is sort of heartbreaking to watch. People desperately sending messages to private citizens. And because this has a lot of potential for scam or misunderstanding, we insist that you work with a professional partner who understands a lot about this new system before applying for it, and that's just for the safety of the church. We wouldn't want anyone to get scammed or anyone to walk into a situation that they don't fully understand. And so that's what this one is. This one's specialized for Ukrainians because the UCC has created an appeal in particular for Ukrainians. And so this is the funding for that. The other nationalities that are eligible under this would go under the Refugee Resettlement Grant. We may expand those as Church World Service opens more eligibility for trainings for the other nationalities involved as well. I know that's a little bit confusing. It's called the Uniting for Ukraine program. You could look it up if you just type in Uniting for Ukraine on your Google search bar, it'll give you more information about what this program is. The other one is Process for Venezuelans, which has now been expanded to Process for Venezuelans, Haitians, Cubans, Nicaraguans. Does anyone have any questions about this one? If we know a family from the UK wishing, can we use this grant? Linda, is the family from the UK? Are they
Actually,
asylum?
Crimea.
No, I'm sorry. It's only 5 nationalities right now.
Okay.
Nicaragua, which was a question from someone else, is one of them. It's only 5 nationalities. Everyone else doesn't qualify for it yet. They just have to claim asylum or go through traditional UNHCR.
So
Go ahead.
if I understand correctly, they would need to go first to one of those agencies, register themselves, then we would pick up people that way.
Yeah, but I mean, the UNHCR process is long, it could take between 2 and 20 years to go through UNHCR. It always has, but that's what they have to do if they're not from one of those 5 nationalities, unfortunately, still. Now, I have big reservations about this system for these 5 nationalities, which I will cover more later. It's a very long topic that I don't want to bore you guys with right now, or overload you guys, I guess would be the better word. But yeah, it is something that's happening though. So we're trying to help people learn more about it. Yes, the next submission date is Friday, February 17th. And then we're going to review, we're actually going to review Wednesday, February 22nd. And the reason for that was my fault, is that I'm going to be on a plane from a multi-state trip and I will not be able to be on the call. And there's no way I can present applications if I am 30,000 feet above the air. So we're actually going to review on Wednesday, the 22nd, but the submission date is still Friday, the 17th. Any other questions about the Ukrainian seed grant or any of the other processes or anything else? Let's stop sharing that. All right. Well, as I said, I really appreciate your feedback. It sounds like a lot of folks are interested in knowing more about how to fund their nonprofit partners. We are going to give priority again, we're limited. Once that cap's gone, it's gone. And we're getting a substantial amount of more applications than we did a year ago. So we will always give priority to UCC churches that are directly doing the work rather than to UCC churches that are supporting others. We have done that and we will continue doing that, but our preference will be for UCC churches to be doing the direct work themselves since we are the UCC and we want to help our church's own programs thrive. But if you do want to fund a partner program, my best suggestion is just send me an email to ask which one it falls under. If it's a partner program that does community programming that you volunteer at, that's probably the community program grant. Or if it's a nonprofit partner that meets emergency needs, like the buses, then that's probably the solidarity grant. If it's one that resettles refugees, et cetera, just what's their main purpose, that's probably the grant program that you want to apply for. Where's the funding come from? That's a great question. So the funding sources for this are the Refugee Enabling Fund, which comes from OGHS, the Emergency USA Fund, which I'm sorry, I'm not exactly sure where that funding comes from. Maybe also another branch from OGHS. I know that disaster ministries and climate change ministries also uses the Emergency USA Fund. And then we have something called 2 Corinthians, which is a special fund just for the Refugee and Migration Services, and that one's for migrant empowerment. So all of the empowerment grants and 1/2 of all the funding from the community program grants will come from 2 Corinthians. And then the last one is the Ukrainian appeal grant, which we put out a Ukraine appeal last year and got an excellent response from the church. So that's where the Ukrainian one comes from. That's why there's a special application for them. We also have a Haitian appeal. So if you want to sponsor a Haitian, because that's one of those 5 nationalities, to come from Haiti, then we have a separate fund for that as well. So Haitians and Ukrainians in particular have a higher level of funding just based on church money that has come in for those nationalities. The purpose of having one of the partners on the list. Okay, the question is, for Asylum Booster Grant, what's the purpose of having one of the partners on your list? The reason why is just so that churches can demonstrate an appropriate level of support. Asylum seekers, have a high level of need. They're unfortunately very dependent just based on not being eligible for work authorization, not being eligible for benefits. They're completely at your mercy. And so that's just for having a partner, a professional partner, is just for accountability, to assure that the church is well supported, and also that it doesn't create an undue power dynamic between the asylum seeker and the church. It's for accountability and moderation. That's why. Okay. All right, well, I see a lot of familiar faces on this call, folks that have applied for grants before, and I so dearly appreciate all your ministries. Having these grants open is an excellent way for me to be able to get a map of everything that's happening in the UCC and connect you all to each other. So I certainly and so much appreciate all the work you do. If you have any further questions, you can email me. Like I said, I'm going on a multi-state trip next month, so I'm not sure. I always try to get back within 48 hours. But for having in particular Zoom meetings with individual churches about what they're doing, that may have to wait until March. So I may schedule you in March if you want to have a Zoom meeting about what's going on in your church. Okay, all right. Oh, I'll drop my email in the chat. For folks that are watching later and can't see the chat, it's hassani@ucc.org, HASSANI@ucc.org. And my landing page is Refugee and Migration Ministries @ucc.org, and that's where you can find more information. All right, have a good day, everybody. Thank you again.